Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Rory McLennan, coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. Israel resumed combat operations against Hamas in Gaza on Friday after accusing the Palestinian militant group of firing rockets at Israel and reneging on a deal to free all women held as hostages, violating the temporary truce agreement. An hour before the truce was set to end at 7 a.m, Israel said it intercepted a rocket fired from Gaza. There was no immediate comment from Hamas or claim of responsibility for the launch. The 7-day pause, which began on November the 24th and was then extended twice, had allowed for the exchange of dozens of hostages held in Gaza. Thursday's releases brought the total freed from Gaza during the truce to 105 and 240 Palestinian prisoners being returned. 56 trucks carrying humanitarian supplies and fuel also arrived in Gaza on Thursday. 1,200 people were killed and 240 others taken hostage during the October 7th attack on Israel by Hamas, which controls Gaza. Palestinian health officials said over 15,000 Gazans were killed in Israel's retaliation. Pope Francis informed medical professionals on Thursday that he is suffering from acute infectious bronchitis and was urged not to fly to Dubai due to the drastic temperature change this would bring. Pope Francis declared he no longer had a fever, but that he was still taking antibiotics and other medication. The Pope, who turns 87 on December the 17th, joked with attendees of a healthcare ethics seminar in the Vatican, "As you can see, I am alive." His physicians urged him not to travel to Dubai this week for the United Nations COP28 climate conference. In his spontaneous remarks in Spanish at the healthcare conference on Thursday, Pope Francis himself explained the decision. He said that the reason is that it is very hot in Dubai and you can go from heat to air conditioning, adding that the temperature change is not good for his bronchial condition. Two US Catholic bishops have said that efforts to meet climate goals must heed both the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. The two bishops released a joint statement ahead of the United Nations Annual Conference on Climate Concerns, known as COP28, or the Conference of the Parties in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, which will conclude on the 12th of December. Archbishop Boris Gudziak, chairman of the US Conference of Catholic Bishops Committee on Domestic Justice and Human Development, and Bishop Elias Zaidan, chairman of the US CCB's Committee on International Justice and Peace, said that no government will be successful in reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the long run if it requires a significant increase of the energy costs of middle and low-income citizens. They noted that this goal cannot be achieved alone through the efforts of individuals or even nations and will require long-term cooperation by all. They also stressed the need to include developed nations' financial support for the adaptation, resilience and recovery of the most vulnerable. Pope Francis mentioned the historic meeting between Pope St. Paul VI and Ecumenical Patriarch Athenagoras in 1964 in his customary greetings to Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew on the feast of St. Andrew, the patron saint of Constantinople. He also prayed that Saints Peter and Andrew may obtain the gifts of fraternal communion and peace for the faithful. The Holy Father said it is noteworthy that today we remember not so much the words and statements of those two prophetic pastors, but above all their warm embrace. The Supreme Court of Russia declared on Thursday the International LGBT Public Movement to be an extremist organisation and banned its activities across the country. The country's Ministry of Justice filed the motion that led to the decision. The hearing was held behind closed doors, but reporters were allowed in to hear the court's decision. No defendants had been presented in the court. In 2020, the Russian constitution was amended to explicitly state that marriage is a union of a man and a woman. The nation does not recognise same-sex unions. A new study by BMC Psychiatry, an open-access journal, shows that the occurrence of post-abortion depression is widespread globally. The study, entitled Global Prevalence of Post-Abortion Depression, Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis, revealed that 34.5% of women who underwent abortion experienced depression. From the 1st of February to March the 10th of this year, the researchers examined 15 publications with over 18,000 research participants based on over 600 articles. The study finds that several factors, including geographic area, the socio-economic state of the population, the diagnostic instrument used, and the study methodology, all have an impact on the prevalence of post-abortion depression. Furthermore, the study's conclusion that post-abortion depression is a frequent consequence of ending a pregnancy contradicts the earlier findings by other research groups, such as the American Psychological Association. As the Inter-American Court of Human Rights is about to rule on a case that might seriously affect the right to life throughout Latin America, various pro-life groups are calling for the court not to issue a verdict in favour of the abortion industry. The court is debating the Beatriz versus El Salvador case, filed by abortion supporters back in 2017. Abortion advocates are pushing the court to legalise abortion on demand by exploiting the case of a woman who is seriously ill and pregnant with a fatally disabled child. If the court rules to legalise abortions, then the right to be born, especially for those with disabilities, will be put at risk. The case comes against the backdrop of Beatriz, who had lupus and was found to be pregnant with a daughter who had been diagnosed with anencephaly. Under pressure from local abortion groups, Beatriz asked the government to perform an abortion on her, which was then turned down. Her daughter was born and lived for 5 hours. Beatriz, with the backing of the abortion organisations, filed a lawsuit to the Inter-American Court to legalise the procedure across the continent, arguing that no one should undergo what she experienced. The South Sudanese Catholic bishops are urging the government to disinfect people from tribalism to forge a more powerful and cohesive nation. Cardinal Ameyu Martin Mullah of the Juba Archdiocese addressed the faithful on November the 26th at the opening of the annual Eucharistic Congress in the Catholic Diocese of Wau. The Cardinal stated that the government and church authorities had a duty to rid the nation of tribalism. The prelate added that regionalism and tribalism are widespread among the population and urged church and political authorities to consider this seriously. Meanwhile, bishops and faithful from the Catholic Diocese of Wau led a solemn procession from the St. Josephine Bakita Prayer Centre to the St. Mary Help of Christians Cathedral in Wau town on the 25th of November before the Eucharistic Congress began. The Eucharistic Congress will culminate in the Catholic Archdiocese of Juba on the 24th of November in 2024. According to a recent survey in the Central American country, Nicaraguans overwhelmingly disapprove of the conviction and imprisonment of Bishop Rolando Alvarez of Matagalpa. The study by the CID Gallup firm showed that 72% of Nicaraguans responded unfavourably when asked their opinion on the 26-year prison sentence given to Bishop Alvarez after being accused of treason. As per the data revealed on the 30th of November, even over 40% of Sandinista supporters who are related to President Daniel Ortega's political party viewed the sentence unfavourably. The poll was conducted between October the 17th and November the 15th. The study was conducted on 800 people who were above the age of 18. Meanwhile, a previous study by the group earlier this year revealed that 79% of Nicaraguans disapproved of the conviction and imprisonment of the prelate. The Michigan-based St. Joseph's Catholic Parish has asked the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals to uphold its authority to administer its school and church life without first asking for permission from state officials. The parish challenged a recently amended state statute that forbids St. Joseph's from hiring employees who consent to respect its religious convictions and prevents it from keeping a church and school environment that reflects its faith. The Federal Appeals Court is being asked by the parish to let them conduct church and school operations based on their Catholic views of human sexuality and marriage, following the dismissal of the complaint earlier this year by a lower court. Faith-based pro-life organisations O'Brien Group and O'Brien Medical Group's P&W have sued Washington Attorney General Bob Ferguson for conducting an unlawful investigation into their privileged records. ADF attorneys representing the pro-life groups said the investigative demands issued by Ferguson that mandated disclosure of privileged materials violate the group's rights protected by the 1st, 4th and 14th Amendments in the United States Constitution. They said the investigative demands are not based on any factual evidence and suspects a violation of the Washington Consumer Protection Act. Attorneys observed that the unlawful inquiry is based on the plaintiff's view on abortion pill reversal. According to them, the organisations were targeted because of their life-affirming views. The US-based Religious Institute of the Salesians of Don Bosco has created a programme to assist young Nigerians in identifying prospective career options. The project is part of the Salesian Mission's efforts to offer social development and educational programmes for the country's marginalised youth. The initiative's purpose is to educate and encourage young people aged 18 to 30 to make life decisions that are in line with their professional ambitions. Participants are invited to reflect on their own interests, passions, values and strengths. Historically, Salesian authorities have also established youth centres, food programmes, health clinics and other services. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us again next time for more. And do remember, in the meantime, you can always visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.